Okay, this is chapter 12, the last chapter of Chuju's house. Each day I thought of my promise to Hana to visit my family. The only time I could leave would be after the rice harvest and before the crops were planted. At the end of August, the time came. I would take a bus to the river and the riverboat to our village. I remembered my Baba's dislike of blue jeans, and I bought new trousers for the trip and a new shirt as well. Then, throwing all caution to the winds, I spent 3 yuan for a stuffed panda for Hua. All was ready and everything planned, yet I could not take the first step. It had been like that when I had left my home, and now it was like that when I was to leave Hana's house. Ling said, "Chuju, think how pleased and relieved your family will be to see you. You have nothing to fear. Who could wish for a better daughter? They will be proud to hear you have your own land." But I ran away. They will understand. Perhaps there is a son now, though how could any son make them happier than such a daughter as you? There is no knowing. A worried look came over his face. "You will come back?" "I would never leave my land," I said, "and my friends are here. How could I leave your parents who have been so good to me?" I smiled. "And their son as well." As the bus pulled away from the village, the last thing I saw from the window of the bus was Ling standing at the station waving. I closed my eyes, holding the memory to carry me into the days to come. The bus passed near the worm farm, and I longed to stop and see Ling Li, Song Su, and Jing, but I could not stop, for I had to return in time to get the crops planted. The riverboat carried me on the water, and I looked for Yi Yi and Wu and the boys. There were many fishing boats, but none of them was familiar. At last we came to the village where I had grown up. I left the boat, checking carefully to see that my return tickets were in my bag. It was nearly evening, and many of the stalls in the village were closed. The dentist and Baba were not there, but I saw my old schoolmaster. I was ready to greet him, but he hardly looked at me, passing me quickly. I hurried on, thinking it might be possible to visit my home and see my family from a distance without being recognized. My old home and its plot of vegetables had grown large in my memory. Now, with it there before my eyes, it appeared small. I stood hidden behind the many branches of the banyan tree. What I saw seemed both as real and yet as unreal as the pictures I had seen on the Dianchi, or the TV screen, in the window of the store. There was Nene, older and frailer, sitting with Papa at the table in the courtyard. Mama held Hua in her arms. No, it could not be Hua, for the baby in her arms was only a few months old. A child ran out of the house and climbed onto Papa's lap, and I saw that it was Hua. The terrible worry I had all these years disappeared. My sister was safe. Perhaps the new baby was a boy. I could see no place for myself and resolved to leave now, saying nothing. Later I would send a letter telling all that had happened to me. Yet in spite of my resolve to run away again, I drew closer. I might just say a word or two, ask directions as if I were a stranger and not be recognized. My heart pounding, my legs weak, I stepped away from the shadows of the tree. Mama looked up and saw me. She thrust the baby into Nene's arms and ran toward me. "Chuju, Chuju!" I felt the familiar softness as her arms enclosed me and smelled the familiar fragrance of the many herbs she gathered and preserved for Baba. "Oh, Chuju, how could you have left us? Every day has been torture worrying about you." Baba turned toward me as well. He took my hands. "Chuju, you leaving us was a bitter thing, but let me look at you. The little girl is gone. You are a young woman now, and beautiful." Nene was staring at me over the baby in her arms. I could not tell her whether her eyes were bleary with age or whether tears lay in them. "How well you are dressed," she said. There was suspicion in her voice. Hua, for I knew it was my sister, stood apart staring at me, her thumb in her mouth. I knelt down and drew her to me. "Hua," I asked, "do you remember me? I am Chuju, your sister." I took the panda bear from my bag and handed it to her. "I brought you a present." Hua grinned and looked up at Mama as if asking permission. Mama nodded and Hua reached for the bear, hugging it to her. I was sorry I had not brought something for the new baby. "What is the new baby's name?" I asked. "She is called Nu Hai," Nene said. "Nothing else is needed." Nu Hai, girl, a name given with no great thought or hope. "You must be hungry," Mama said. "Come and sit down and let me get you tea and a little something with it." Mama brought out a hard-boiled egg and flat cakes and my favorite pickles. The tea came in the familiar blue bowls I had drunk so many times. Watching me, Mama said, "Every day I wondered, where is Chuju this day? And even where is Chuju this moment?" Baba said, "When I read your note, Chuju, I said it was all my doing. If there had been no talk of sending Hua away, we would still have our Chuju. In our desire for a son, we lost a daughter." He sighed. "Now we have another daughter, but this one stays, though I will never live to see a son." When the table had been cleared, Baba said, "Now, Chuju, you must tell us where you have been." "From the moment you left," Mama said, "leave nothing out. I went with you on your journey, but I have no picture of it." Hua climbed onto my lap, clutching her panda, anxious for a story with no thought that the story began with her. With every sentence, there were questions. "But why did you think of going to the river?" Papa asked. "How could you deal with the insides of so many fish?" Mama asked. "Worms," Hua giggled. "You tickled the worms with a feather?" There can be little money in the tickling of worms, Nene said. How is it you have money to come back here? We want no thief in our house. And so I told about Hana. When I finished the story, Mama said, how I wish the good woman had lived so that I may get on my knees to thank her for the kindness she showed to my daughter. You went to Shanghai by yourself? Papa asked. That is such a dangerous place. And now that your Hana is dead, Nene said, I suppose this Quan has turned you out, and you came back here like a whipped dog with its tail between the legs. No, indeed, I protested. It is not like that at all. Hana left me the lease for her land, and Quan took me himself to the village registrar. The lease is mine. It is all recorded. I go back tomorrow to plant the vegetables. No, Mama cried, grasping at my sleeve as if she meant to hold me there. It is impossible that you should leave so soon. I just have my daughter back with me, and am I to lose her? But Baba only asked, this land belongs to you? How much land is there? When I told him, his eyes opened very wide, as if he saw before him the green rice plants rippling in the wind. I could tell the idea of having so little a piece of land was a great thing for Papa. As I described the plowing of the land and planting of the rice, Papa's face lit up as if he too were planting and harvesting. And fish, I said. I plant fish with the rice, and they grow with the rice, so that I have double harvest. Nene gave a little bark of a laugh. Now I am more sure forever that you are telling us a tale. Fish in the rice paddy? That cannot be. It can be, Papa said. I have heard of such things. With Hanaga, Mama said, you will be alone. I told him of the Zhang's kindness, and because I wished to bring his name into our family, I told him of Ling, and how he and the beast plowed my land and the cleverness of his orchard. Papa nodded his head as I described the orchard. That is a wise choice. I see in the village how much people will give for a fine peach or a juicy plum. As I spoke of Ling, Mama watched me. Now she smiled. This son of your friend has an orchard, and his family have a water buffalo. They must be well off. Is this Ling a good son? My face was burning. Yes, I said, and a good friend. I said no word of his dangerous books that told the truth. Ah, Mama said, and nodded with satisfaction. I had been thinking, I said, if the rice and fish do well this year, I could save my money, and in a year or so I could send the fare for the bus and the boat. Then you could see my land. Nene had been watching me, and now she said, why don't you sell the lease to your land and come here? You are grown now, and we could pass you off as a cousin. Then if there is a son, we could have the money for a fine. Mama said, I am too old for another child. There will be no son, and who would not be satisfied with a daughter like Chuju? Papa said, yes, sell your land and come back, and we will buy land here. There was eagerness, even hunger in his voice. For a moment I thought of such a thing, but I saw it could not be done. The land was left to me by Hana, who wanted me to care for it. If I were to give it up, the money should go to Quan. Though I longed to stay close to Mama, I saw my land before me as clearly as if it were there. I knew every furrow and every bit of rich earth. Who would care for the rice and the fish as I would? And was I to say goodbye to Ling forever? I knew something else. If I were to give the money to Papa, it would be Papa's land to do with as he pleased. You are a selfish girl, Nene, to care so little for your family. I care for my family, I said, and if money is needed, I will be thrifty and send all I can. But I am going to return tomorrow. After our rice, Hua took me by the hand. Chuju, she said, come and see the little chicks. There in the chicken yard were 3 newly hatched chicks. Hua squatted down beside them and stared fondly at them, gently touching their soft yellow down. As I watched her, I promised myself that any money I gave would go for Hua and New Hay's schooling, as much schooling as they wanted. I could live on very little. There would be no further new clothes. I would make what other sacrifice was needed. Should I marry Ling, I was sure he would understand. Learning meant much to him, and hadn't he been quick to give me a book to read? Hadn't he risked so much for books? I did not believe that he would begrudge me any money I sent to my sisters. Nene must have read my mind, for she said, though I said it would be a waste, your Papa spent good money on educating you. There is no money to waste on schooling for your sisters, and she gave me a sly look. I will find the money, I dared to say to her. The learning was not wasted on me. I thought of the letter I had written to the orphanage and the reading of Quan's letter and the book I shared with Ling. The following morning, when it was time to leave, the goodbyes of Papa and Nene were stiff and formal. Mama clung to me, begging me not to leave. Hua too clung to me, and for a moment Hana's house seemed so far I could not see it. But then it came back into my head, and promising to return, I hurried off, looking only once back. It was still daylight when I reached the house that had been Hana's and was now mine. Though I was tired from the long trip, and though the memory of Mama's sad farewell stayed with me, I went at once to the little seeds and began to drop them into the warm earth. Soon the green shoots would push up, and in time there would be the harvest, and then another spring, and the planting of the rice and the little fish swimming about. When I paused in my planting to look up toward the hills, I saw Ling hurrying toward me, a great smile on his face. And at the end of the book is a glossary, and then it also tells you that the Chinese New Year is determined by the Chinese lunar calendar. It usually takes place in January or February and begins with the new moon. And it also said that Chinese babies are considered 1 year old when they are born. So 1 year after Hua was born, she would be 2 years old. And that is the end of Chuju's house.